what an honor it is to bring back somebody who has meant so much to so many people on so many different levels. But the beautiful thing about this cat is that he never forgot what it means to be a human being, and he never forgot about the feeling that he had from all of that his elders gave him, because at the end of the day, all we're left with is truly the essence, whether it's music, whether it's vibration, whether it's family. You can't take anything material. And, every year we get a chance to sort of commune and break things down in a very free form, improvisational way. And I'm looking forward to seeing where this one goes. Billy Cobham, welcome back to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thank you, Jake. It's welcome. It's a real pleasure to be here. I was hoping that I would have it was kind of a dream, and then COVID hit, that I'd have the opportunity to do this in person.
I would, man, it's really, well, and of course for the audience, I mean, Billy got COVID before we even knew what COVID was, back in the fall of 2019. Thank God you were able to get through it. I was listening back to this album that I always screw up the name, Funky Side of Things, with Alex Blake and those cats. And, I noticed that you covered a Keith Jarrett tune. And I was wondering about, did you play with Keith early on? Did you cross paths with that cat?
Well, Keith was on a recording I did with Freddie Hubbard called White Rabbit.
Oh, that was a Benson album. Was that a Benson album?
White Rabbit was a Benson album. Yeah, it was a Benson album with Freddie on it. That's what it was.
Absolutely. Okay.
Me and Freddie and Keith. Who else? Ron Carter. I
think Jay Berliner might have been on. It's hard for me to remember.
Jay Berliner played guitar on the Spanish thing. Yeah.
Right.
And Keith was the piano player.
It's just funny because I got this. I was just hoping you could talk. I got this. I had this DVD that was the audio and video weren't synced up. It was from Downbeat Awards 1976, and it's so beautiful, Billy, because first of all, you missed the 75 awards for some reason. You were probably on the tour. So
Buddy Rich got in my way.
But this 76, man, is melting my heart, man. There's this incredible you and Chick and Ron and the late great Bill Watrous playing this incredible ballad, and at a certain point it's just you, Chick, and Ron, and you guys are just having such a ball. And I wanted you to talk Chick, or maybe more so Chick than Keith, but just the idea of, were you guys instantaneous pals? In some way, like, I feel like the best music is made by the people who are closest to each other.
Well, music never lies. And this is where the reality strikes a very, very major chord, as in C, E, G.
Yes.
What happens is that if you can play, everybody's your friend. But it's real to the extent of what you bring to the creative table, for lack of a better term. That decides how many chips you get to play the game, and how the game will be played, and not from just your perspective, but how you are creative as one of the cogs in the wheel to make something that otherwise you couldn't do by yourself.
I mean, when did you feel you got to a point when you started to collect tokens or cards early on? I mean, was it?
That happened when I got out of the Army, and before I got out of the Army, really. It happened while I was still in the Army.
Oh
But I was moonlighting my buns off because $122 a month just didn't get it, and I had two kids.
No, I can't.
So I had to drive up from Fort Dix, which is about 90 miles one way, up to the Hickory House on 52nd Street and 6th Avenue to play with Billy Taylor. And that's where I made my bones with Billy Taylor. And if he wasn't there, with Jackie Byard. And if he wasn't there, was Roland Hanna. And if he wasn't there, Eddie Thompson. So we had those piano players, and the bass players were Chris White, normally was just like Chris. Damn, the guy who wrote, he didn't write Sonny, but he owned the actual
Masters.
rights to
Wow,
it.
really? We're not
The
talking
bass
like,
player, and I can't remember his name right now.
was that Wilbur Ware or something?
No, Wilbur. Well, yeah, it wasn't Wilbur as much as I mean, all respect, man. Those are the legends, him
Oh
and
my God. Well,
those
that's what
other
I
guys.
want to
But
go
that's
back
another
even.
day. That's a story for another day.
No. Actually, I really do want you to talk about Milt Hinton, those cats, like, uh, some of the earlier guard cats, like Jackie Byard, especially. Let's just take Jackie and Roland for a minute, because Billy,
Well, I mean, can you
yeah,
imagine Jackie Byard's an alto saxophone player who was a student of Charlie Parker?
absolutely, 100%.
Okay, so but Jackie Byard was a walking thesaurus / dictionary of every conceivable bebop, uh, birth of the cool tune you could ever think of. Just walking in, you call it, and he'd say, "What key?"
Yeah, right, dude. His ears were huge, man.
And so it was. He just for the heck of it, because he was that much of a genius, would be playing, let's say, Portrait of Jenny or something like that, and it might start, it could start in G, but he just uh, go modulate to any particular key in the 12th key scale, and just play it in that. I mean, and the thing is that he wasn't alone. It's just that Ben Tucker was the other bass player,
Big
and
good call, Ben Tucker, man. Yeah,
Ben
definitely.
Tucker, and Ben was a small time music publisher, and he owned the rights to Sonny, and that kept food on the table for him and family. But at the same time, he was playing with Billy as the real bass player, and then they had subs. And Reggie Workman was there. That's right. So it was like all these cats came through, and I was subbing for Grady Tate. And I was in the United States Army Band in Fort Dix with me and Grover Washington. But Grover was playing mostly with the Gala cats in Philly and Trenton.
Wow.
And I had this one connection up in New York. And that's what kept food on the table for me. So I ended up with working with Chris, or subbing for either Grady or Rudy Collins or I saw the cats. I shot.
You
With all
told
the
me, son. No, it's going to come to me
time.
too. Yeah. No, no. I wanted. This is really important. I'm glad that just popped into my head. I was doing going back and transcribing an interview I did with the great saxophone player Lou Marini, and
Yeah, Lou.
okay, great cat, and he was talking about this concept, this Kennedy Center award that they were giving Herbie an award at the Kennedy Center, and it was they were sort of splitting off into a couple of different trios, and there was this one trio with Jack D, Chick, and Gary Peacock, and Marini said a profound thing, and I wanted you to riff on it because to me, you're like one of outside of Elvin Jones. I feel like you're one of the only drummers that just plays through the time. But he said that Jack was and they weren't recording anything, but they were just kind of jamming out. And he said Jack was not concerned about keeping time for other people. He expected everybody to have their own inner time feel so that he could go and paint on his kit. And I know you have a different style than Jack, but I wanted you to talk to cats who are a little bit consumed with the pigeonholing of what has happened in instrumental music as it relates to the rhythm section, what the drummer is responsible for, as opposed to the liberation of the rhythm section. I truly believe there's so many gifted cats, but if they just sort of threw away the preconceived notions about their responsibilities and everybody had their own inner time field, that was the key. And when you were at the Hickory House with Jackie, Roland, all those guys had different time feels, but they all had their own feel, so you could just flow and play through the time. And I just feel like it's kind of a missing element today with instrumental improvisational music. You can go anywhere where you want with that, but I just feel like that is what really one of the biggest things that my show is all about.
Okay, so I'm going to rectify something for you now.
Go ahead.
Those people didn't have their individual sense of time from the perspective of leading others in a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
Their sense of time was based on how they viewed their colleagues' contribution to the control of the tempo. So all of us had to listen to each other and translate or interpret what everybody was saying and come up with a compromise one way or another as to where we thought individually the others were. And we started with the bass player. You know, even in free jazz atonal, you have a bass player in the middle, and that person's playing the change.
Absolutely.
Somebody
man.
has to
Yes.
hold the fort, man.
I know. We talked about John B. did that with Horace. But I want to talk about this. But
Let's not go away from this now.
No, go ahead.
Now we're in it. Now we're in it. Now, stay with me, because the heavy about drummers today is that they think in terms of clock, generally speaking.
That's right.
And they're stuck on just how to sustain themselves through a tune for 2-3 minutes for a single. And God help us if you can't do that. Get me a click track. I need to play along with a clock. When you, in essence, we all are born with the clock in our head. We have a sense of timing that goes way beyond that. So the main thing is that you sit down, and if you learn how to interpret and translate the ideas that your colleagues are playing on the bandstand, and it happens day in, day out on things that we know that we were born to listen to. Listen to the kids at Bruno Mars and all of those cats. They're playing only what they know, and the groove is so strong because they are comfortable with it, because they're hearing what they already knew when they were in the womb. Now, somebody wants to bring them out of that and say, well, play this. They don't know how to take what they already know and morph it into what they're asked to create. So they are insecure about it because one part of the brain is stronger than the other side. That's why we have a weak side and a strong side. So if you're a good right-hander, your left side is not that strong unless you practice both ways. So all these things come into view, man. And when it comes down to it, if you don't listen with both ears, with things coming in and retain and understand what is being said, it's not just in the words or in the action, it's how you interpret. You will only be as good as what you see in your mind's eye. I rest my case.
I just want to follow up on a couple of things here. Okay, so what I'm hearing is I want you to talk specifically. You can use any example you want. This is fascinating. Listening through both ears, compromising on the bandstand, but part of compromising is trusting the people you're playing with. So sometimes you don't have these working bands like you used to. So there's not as much trust. So, I mean, you're talking about compromising in the moment. That to me is exhilarating. That's what music is about. And and so is there less compromise today because rhythm section drummers are consumed with a quantized clock, a metronome, so to speak? Explain.
Yes.
And explain how.
Is because no one is listening to one central element the bass player. The bass player creates and sustains the groove rhythmically and melodically. He plays the root notes, or if it's only a vamp, that should be easy enough, but it's not. Vamps are not easy to sustain because it's like they're doing it over and over and over again, okay? And so you start to think about things. How can I make this groove stay where it is? You gotta dance, you gotta walk, you gotta move. Hey, that's easy to do if one note is do 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 boop do do. Everybody's moving because they can feel that,
That's
right?
right. Mm-hmm.
Even the military bands in England can do that. Now, the thing is that it's like if you don't have that, then you can't do anything. And guess what makes those grooves along with the bass player rhythmically? And that is the drums. No matter whether it's a march or it's a waltz, it's monotonous. Boom, ba, ba, boom, ba, ba, do, ba, dee, ba, dee, ba, ba, but that's staying there. Boom, 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 boom. And if that groove ain't there, man, then nothing's going to happen. No matter how much knowledge everybody else has about what notes to play, where and when, it's how to sustain the rhythmic pattern. And that's why they depend on those staunch elements called drums and bass.
All right. No, this is really so I'm gonna go back. This is something that's really come into my consciousness lately, and it's perfect timing with what we're talking about. My favorite band right now is an instrumental band called Circles Around the Sun.
Mhm.
3 out of the 4 cats, they are playing with monitors on the stage. The drummer got spooked at the Beacon Theater, and they don't play huge venues, but he all of a sudden couldn't hear, or he felt himself straining to listen to the other players. As a result, he now wears in-ear monitors, and the rest of the guys are frustrated because the vocabulary of the music that they're playing cannot grow, mainly because he can't hear the environmental or ambient sound of the room. And I couldn't think of asking a better person. I'm sure that you are blessed with the best technology at seminars and big bands and things like that. But I'm going back to not just the Hickory House, but the Village Gate, all the major European venues you played with Mahavishnu. You never wore in-ear monitors, did you?
Yes, I did.
With Mahavishnu?
Not when I began. I started wearing in-ear monitors in 1994 when I was working with Peter Gabriel.
We'll talk about, okay, I want to know about the evolution, because part of me doesn't mind if things get a little bit reckless, because if you are playing off of, part of listening is the environmental part of it. I mean, that's the magic of the music. So explain.
Jay, you gotta keep things. For me, I have to keep things in perspective. And you've asked very, very, very deep questions that we have yet to complete the circle on. And
Okay, yeah, I did.
No, I don't want you to change, because that's who you are. And so we covered something, but it'll be for another day. We'll come back to it again and some other things. But remember, you asked me about Chick, you asked me about Keith,
yeah,
and you want. I rarely ever work with those guys, but every time I sat down and I played with those guys, it was as if we've been playing together for years. And there's a reason. It's called the connecting, being respectful of each other. The one major cog in the wheel, always with me, most of my career, I must admit, in terms of an upright bass player, everybody knows is Ron. So with Carter, I'm always there, or Richard Davis. But mostly with Ron. And it was just there because we felt So we could go on into Carnegie Hall for Ron's birthday, and do a VSOP kind of thing without Freddie, and without, of course, I was playing in replacement of Tony. So Herbie, me, Ron's birthday, and Wayne Shorter, and we get on the bandstand in Carnegie Hall to play. We have 20 minutes to play some kind of a presentation.
Yeah.
And no one, God be my judge, man. The biggest conversation that I was a part of as a listener in the whole situation for the 40 minutes that I was in their presence was Ron trying to get Herbie to play on a Steinway piano, and Herbie wanted to play on a Fazioli and got his way to play on a Fazioli. And the rest of the time, I think I said hello to her. I said hello to Wayne once, and Herbie and I, hugged, and that was the end of it. And Ron was just pure, completely, and rightly so, really tensed up because it was Carnegie Hall and it was his birthday celebration, and he was running the show. So we had to play whatever came to mind. We played in 20 minutes, we played snippets of about 5 tunes. And it didn't matter where it went. Ron always just changed it from time to time. He spent more time introducing us than anything else. And yet we had 2,700 people hanging from the rafters. And we were not the closing act. His band was the closing act because George Wein didn't want to run overtime. So we had to play 20 minutes before the closing act. And it was like a shock. Nobody, what are you doing? It was 2007, man. And the thing is that we never played together again.
Dude, you're blowing my mind. Okay, so Bernard Purdy, in our interview, but in our interview, he said, he goes, how did we make all those hit records? And this is more of a studio thing than a live thing, because we're going to get into Peter Gabriel, because we haven't really gone there before.
Yeah.
But he said all the hits came from dynamics. Nobody was wearing in-ear monitors. The minute the drummer wears the in-ear monitors, they're listening to themselves and they're behind the beat. So explain with Gabriel why you decided to take the plunge with the in-ear monitors.
Okay, before we leave Bernard.
Yeah, Bernard.
Before we left Bernard, remember, in recording studio, everybody has to have earphones, headphones. You've got to hear the other musicians. He's covered up. His drums are not in the open, man. Atlantic Studio, you got to baffle. I've been there. I've done that in his place, with Donny Hathaway and Roberta Flack, not to mention, and all kinds of people I've worked with there. So it's like, it is what it is. I mean, even for a reef, everybody wears headphones. So that's one thing. Let's put that to the side. Now, getting into the situation with Gabriel.
Yeah.
Can you imagine a band that on stage that had we were on tour when I took Manu Cachet's place because he had an emergency and he couldn't finish the tour. So we still had 3 months to do or something like that. And I was working on for WOMAD and stuff that Gabriel was running in England. And I was also doing some recording on my own at the time and producing some small things with Daniel Lanois over there, some world music groups from Africa, XYZ, whatever. And he said, Bill, I said, hey, he said, can you take, he told me the story with Manu and stuff. And I said, yeah, man, I'll come. I got there. All of what he was working with was 6 musicians, including himself, on the bandstand. Him, Tony Levin, organ player, I can't remember, Jean-Paul something or other from France or from one of the Caribbean islands. It's a black man, fine keyboard player. a singer, a woman whose name I don't remember right now. You can look that up.
Yeah.
And oh, David Rose. So that's five, and
Oh,
me.
wow.
Okay, so we're on the bandstand, and we're playing on the average. I mean, the smallest concert we played that I can recall was a rehearsal in Hanover, Germany, at a huge convention center in Hanover, where it was like the Coliseum in New York City. I mean, huge, but
Right.
they had a few of them, or the Frankfurt Music Fair, the Messe, something like that, or even Anaheim, buildings upon buildings. And they had a new building that they wanted to try. Clare Brothers was a flavor of the month sound company at the time, and they needed to fly a new system for Gabriel to check it out. On word of mouth, on word of mouth, we walked into a place that had just as it for invitation only 45,000 people came from as part of the Peter Gabriel club
Yeah.
to listen to the
The
music.
fan club. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the fan club. They just showed up, word of mouth, man.
Right.
And that
Totally.
was
I
and
did.
it went up from there, right? Now we're playing. I mean, I've never been. It was a great experience for me because I'm thinking, shit. What I normally do, I can't do because no one will hear me. If I play, I understood now why Aerosmith and all those big rock bands back then, even Stones, anybody, when they played one note, it could sound like a roll because we averaged after that 85,000 people a show. And we played racetracks, um, Nürburgring, I mean, Formula One tracks where we were a spit in the bucket. I mean, nobody would ever know. That place is maybe 5 miles, 6 miles wide, round. It's a Formula One track. And we played Modena. We played not Modena. We played the heavy one in Italy. We played Milano. We played stadiums, and it was like 60,000, 70,000. Frauenfeld, which in Switzerland, that's huge, man. I mean, for Switzerland, 50,000 people on the open air. And Denmark, always the same. And so the patterns that I would play for Sledgehammer and Biko and all of this kind of stuff, I had to hear directly what those people on the bandstand were doing. I had to hear Peter. I had to have clarity, man. What did they call them? Meyer Sound is not going to get it. No, no way, no way.
So I want to be clear about this.
By the
Yes.
way, they had
Yeah.
2 stages,
Oh my
and we had to move from one to the other, man.
You didn't have like that legendary story from that you told me from maybe the Hippodrome, or it was the last show of a Mahavishnu tour. You were dog tired, and
Oh, that was the Olympia, and that was
that's
before
right.
a 2 week break to get to San Francisco from Paris.
You were actually watching yourself on the side of the stage. You were telling me
No,
that
I was watching myself from the balcony.
But tell me what the hardest part. I mean, what was the hardest? Maybe it wasn't. I mean, with rock music, it's more simplistic. I mean, with Mahavishnu, I remember talking to Rick Laird, and he said everybody was going so ballistic that I just had to be as simplistic as possible on the bass and create that foundation, as we talked about earlier. But I mean, you guys were playing some pretty cavernous venues then, and the music sounded, it was burning. And so I just wonder how you have chosen to use in-ear monitors. I know when I saw you with Ron C. and Kenny a couple years ago, there were no monitors. That was a small little theater in Mesa. But what would be how have you delegated that? To me, it becomes a security blanket. We have the technology. The technology doesn't mean that it's going to make the music better.
Now I'm going to go back to Rick. I told you the bass player
Yes.
has to lay it down. I don't care if it's free jazz or if you're playing two beat in a German park band with all brass and everything. The tuba player has to boop 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 boop. It's got to be there, man. It's got to be there. Everybody else can float, and the smaller the band, the more latitude everyone has. The more individual creativity everyone has. Okay, the larger the band, now we're getting into corporationville, and there's only certain things that are assigned. Now we have to call in Stan Kenton. We got to call, this person or that, Johnny Richards. We
Yes,
got to,
yes.
and everything has to be set specifically for X amount of bars at X amount of time, and when does the background come in? And there we're talking chairman of the board, corporation, and there you go. Everybody, you got more thinkers suggesting what to do in each section, and it goes like that, man. Yeah.
Did you ever play any? I believe you recorded one album with Horace, with Benny Maupin in that group. Did you ever record in the 60s without, I mean, headphones came in, but did you ever do it with no baffles? I remember Kenny Barron working with Bill Barron, and it was like Richard, maybe Yusef Lateef. I don't know who was on the session, but they just basically dropped a mic in the middle. Everybody was in a circle. Then they hit
Yeah.
record. Did you
Sure.
have an opportunity to record like that?
Sure. Plaza Sound. And let's see. Plaza Sound. Uh, uh, man.
What was Plaza Sound? Tell me about that.
Gotham was another one. Let's see, another. Oh, A&R 48th. It depended on what was happening and what was needed. And sometimes it was a jingle, and or even, where is another one? Did I do it for he might remember, because I don't even know. I haven't spoken to that man in over 50 years.
Who we talking about?
Steve Cropper. I was in Brands Maximus 1970, I think.
No way, dude.
With
Because
him.
he's the one that was telling me about that. He was the one that was like, we didn't have headphones on. At least that was down.
Yeah, I mean, it was during the Green Onion days, and
Exactly, dude. Exactly.
it was that was what was happening then. But he was really a highly specialized artist in the art of editing, and he recorded in the old school way. That's why so many repetitions of the tune, because he took the best performance on certain, like 8 bars or 16 bars of this, and he'd remember there was another 6 bars or 2 bars here, or the intro was better on this, and it took a while. But with him, he could cut all this stuff together, and the tempos were fundamentally the same. And we did not use very often click.
This was at what studio? Maximus?
Trans Maximus in Memphis.
And so
That's where he is, or was. I don't know. I have no idea what happened to him.
dude, he's still cooking, man. He is still on fire. I mean, I'll definitely, yeah, he's still, I wanted, this is so important. Alex Blake, I was listening back to my interview with him. He said that everybody at one time lived up on 85th Street. Don't hold me to that. It was like you, Joe Henderson. It was just like a ridiculous amount of musicians all able to stay within the city limits.
Right.
And and then ultimately you could sing for your supper when you were not on the road and go in the studios. I just was like, when you talk about listening and you talk about spontaneous compromising in the moment, I just wonder how much of that, occurred when you were not necessarily on the clock, so to speak. There are pictures of you in people's lofts and you're wearing
Uh-huh.
Canadians jersey with a hat,
Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
mean, to me, like that was the in like you go to San Francisco today, Billy, it's like they've pushed all the culture out of the city. You can't
I
afford
know.
to live there anymore. I mean,
No.
Zuckerberg can build a $10 million mansion. The Warriors can play in downtown San Francisco. There ain't no music clubs. There's no, they've pushed out all people can't afford to live there. Um,
Hmm.
I just wonder how much you can credit the family outside of the Hickory House. I mean, and the army bands, but just when you became sort of an established cat, the fact that there was always people in the neighborhood to have jam sessions or cut sessions with.
Well, back in those days, what it was very easy to have a plan of action, so to speak. That yeah, I'm going to just do this gig and I'm going to get it back home because I got to work tomorrow and do this other thing tomorrow night. And the next thing you know, you finish the gig. Say it's those are the days where you did 5 shows a night.
Right.
So um, if you did the Coronet in Brooklyn, and you didn't live in Brooklyn, that meant you had to go back to Manhattan to set up, take the drums down, take all of that stuff, find your way to the train station on Nostrand and I can't remember and Fulton Street.
Wait, with the
Uh,
full, there was no cartage. I mean, you had your full kit with
no,
you?
you had to do that yourself.
Oh
No
my
cartage,
God.
man.
Gee.
Now I can't. I could hardly afford to get home from what I
Right.
was getting paid.
Oh man.
So I had to do that, get on the train, take the A train back to town, get off at God, man, this wall. Point Skimmerhorn, go cross over, get in Manhattan, we'll probably get 59th Street, and then take the train uptown, local, and get off at 86th Street and get my drums upstairs. And that whole on that block at the time on the corner of Central Park West and 86, Arif Mardin lives upstairs on that first building.
Hit
And
me.
then
Let's
down the
go.
street,
Yep.
I was living on at 20 West 86. And then down the street from me at the other corner was King Curtis, and he had a house down there. And then across the street, you cross the street and you go down 2 blocks. That's 84th. That was Jimmy Garrison and them, and Jimmy and his wife. Yeah, his family was living down
Walter
there.
Booker had a place, I think,
Walter Booker
somewhere.
was up on 87th and up around on at 87th and Columbus, right? So between and on the other corner, up 87th, 86, 87th, 87th on the corner of Central Park West was Joe Farrell.
Yes, yeah,
And
Alex said Joe Henderson was living up there, I think, too, maybe.
yeah, but that was 94th Street. And then Hubert Laws was on 96th Street. And then it was like people all around, man. Everybody lived down there. It was all convenient because we could catch the bus. Sometimes I'm looking through my stuff now because I'm working on a project potentially to show up in Rochester at the Eastman Kodak Galleries.
Beautiful.
Stuff that I've shot over the past 50, 60 years. So,
Wow, dude.
so
Oh man. No, then
so
we need Ron C and you up
this
there.
place is a mess with
Oh.
all of this stuff, but plastics here and
So you take
so
the bus.
yeah,
You were saying, taking the bus, you'd run into people on the bus.
all the time, somebody going to a date, and there's so many people that worked up there. I mean, it was like, we either going to Jingles or going downtown to work. Like I started, we played this gig. We come home. We're thinking we're going to come home, and then somebody said, "Hey, man, where you going right now?" I said, "No, there's an after hours that's going on right now down on 33rd Street, and that could be with anybody, with Phil Woods, a whole bunch of people. Next thing you know, it's 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm still not home yet."
And oh my, that is just okay. Um, this is so
And
great.
all we did was play, and I leave my drums in the jam session, or Dexter was playing downtown. I don't, all kinds of stuff was going on. So many
Billy,
things would just come together, and boom, and George Cable's, myself, whatever, and we're gone, man. The plan, the best laid plans of mice and men, man. And all of a sudden, yeah, man, you know who's in town? Okay, where's Freddie? Oh, he's probably meeting over at the brasserie. Okay, let's go over there. And then Freddie, hey, where you going, man? We're going to play and hang over. There's an after hours. I mean, it just kept going. And the next thing you know, what started off on Friday ended up on Monday.
Well, we went through that because you were talking about the half note Sunday thing that would
Yeah.
have, and it was just relentless amount of playing. It's just also like
Mhm.
there was no texting. It was like organic running into people, but
Yeah, just running into people. And you got to check it out. I mean, Life magazine I forget the guy's name, the photographer, did a whole thing on that. There was a place where you could go, and there was a story about either Zoot or Zoot Sims or Alcon. I can't remember which, but they walked in. One of those guys walked into a jam session at this club upstairs around East Broadway and 32nd Street. And they were playing and got very hip and all of that. By the time it stopped, one of the saxophone players was playing, Monk was playing piano, everybody left but one of those saxophone players, either Alcon or Zoo Sims. And that was on Friday. And they came back on Sunday. And Zoot was still there, standing. And when they came back in and he started playing the same tune. It was 2 days later. I mean, things like that did in fact happen.
I'm going to test your memory right now. I'm going to go back to a couple things. I know you're going to nail this, but tell me that okay, so Lenny White was out in San Francisco playing with Azteca in '73. Chick Corea was going hard after him to join Return to Forever. Airto had left the band, and he was politicking for Lenny to join Return to Forever. But then, but then this other band had him rehearse, and ultimately, Lenny decided to join Return to Forever and leaves Azteca. But the band that asked him to rehearse and wanted him to join the band was Journey. And I just wonder, were you approached definitely after Mahavishnu when things fell apart? Just you were sort of just twirling around doing Spectrum. Were you ever approached by any rock outfits to join their band?
No. I did get an offer that I was not mature enough to accept because I didn't understand what it meant really to do it. By the Joe Cocker's representatives down in Florida, he was making a record and they wanted me to play on it, and I didn't have the know-how. I saw it as a negative affront, unfortunately for me. And it's something that I live to regret because I would have I feel that if I had accepted, I might have learned something. Maybe I wouldn't have spent the time there that I would have liked to, but I should have taken it, but I didn't. And on the other side, the good thing is that I would not have been a good contributor. So it's better that I didn't do it because he's one of my favorite. He was all-time favorite great singers, and I loved his groove, his feeling. But I wasn't ready for it, and that was another. I think I'm not too sure if Arif was representing Joe at Warner's or Atlantic at the time. I don't know, but it would have been great. But you had to grow into things like that, man.
I dig, man. No, I mean, you're telling me though that the only master bluesman that you ever met or played with was Muddy Waters. Did you ever play with any of the other?
I met Muddy Waters as a being on tour with
Right.
Horace Silver and we were on a George Wein tour with the Stars of Faith, the Max Roach Quartet.
Oh,
I'm
God.
thinking Muddy Waters, let's see who else was in that. There was another band. Oh man,
What was it like? It was like Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels or something. It's just like
no,
what?
but I got to tell you, we were all on a bus together. We did
Oh
45
my God, this is
concerts.
so insane, man.
I know we did 45 concerts. We covered October and November. I got home. We arrived in London, say ballpark around the end of September or thereabouts in 1968, and I didn't get back to New York until December 3rd.
When did wait? I'm sorry. When did the tour start?
I think it was around the beginning of October
Oh my,
1968, and I didn't get back until December 3rd, 1968. And
oh
my
my
and my clothes and my luggage showed up 2 weeks later because they got lost. It got lost on the first day I did the tour, and they followed me all the way around Europe until then.
Did you feel like with the Cocker thing, or even blues players? I mean, obviously you were in demand in this fusion scene, but when I listen to your own records, Billy, I mean, you were you never struck me as a jazz snob, you know? All
Mhm.
your music is heavily influenced by R&B and rock and blues, but when you say you weren't mature enough, did you actually, I mean, did you look not down at Cocker or some of the more simplistic blues players, but you just felt
I
like,
When I got the offer, Jake, I had it was after the MO had it gotten me out of it, and I just my head wasn't in the right place, man,
I
and
dig, man, I dig.
I didn't know I didn't know how valuable that information that knowledge would have been at the time. And so, I feel like it's even greater knowledge now to know why it didn't happen. It's like Hugh Masekela was Larry. I had a and we went to music and art high school together. He was about at least 1 or 2 years ahead of me with Jimmy Owens, and he was working as a piano player for Hugh Masekela, and we had a rehearsal. He invited me up to play drums for Hugh, who was going. He was like "Grazing in the Grass" was like a big hit record for Hugh Masekela back then,
Absolutely, yeah,
and he needed
no,
a
yeah.
band. And I came in and I was I mean I was having a great time, but here's the kicker was that what I was doing, I with them, I felt, man, it's so wonderful, man. This is a great band and all. And I'm thinking naivete like you wouldn't believe. And so with Hugh, it was really beautiful and all of this. And I forgot the name of the saxophone player who was also South African that was a very close friend to Hugh, and he was part of the band. And so at the end, I said, man, I let you know this is a nice band, man. I mean, I'm gonna just go and tell him I've had some connections with for weddings and stuff that we could play. And I'm going, and so I come up to Hugh, and Hugh said, man, you sound great, man. I really enjoyed playing with you. I said, thanks, man. As a matter of fact, I was thinking, if you guys really want to hang, I don't know how long you're going to hang, but I can get you some work playing weddings and bar mitzvahs and stuff. And they were going on concert tour. And I had no idea. I think it was not even in 1960. I was still in the army, and I made a complete idiot of myself in a way. But what was so beautiful is that Hugh said to me, "I need to talk to you for a minute." And I said, "Oh, okay." I'm figured we're going to do some business, and we're going to sit down, and I'm going to
Right,
help him out,
right,
and
right.
talk to this guy, talk to that guy, and here's the phone numbers. And he says, "Look, I want you to understand something. You're not ready to go out on the road yet." And I said, "Why would you say that?" He says, "Do you know what are you doing now?" I said, "Well, I'm still in the army." He says, "There you go." He said, "You need to just take care of yourself. Come and see me when you're ready, but you're not ready now." I never saw Hugh Masekela again for almost 40 years.
Wow.
It just shipped, passing in the night.
Absolutely. No, I get it, you know.
And when I saw him, I said, "Thank you." That's all I
You
can
were
say.
right, man. That's wow.
I
Wow.
had no idea. I mean, things like this happen. I mean, Miles came to me in a different way. He wanted me to play in the band, and it was something. There was something about that with Mahavishnu and all this other stuff, and I went, no, I don't think I'll do it, man. I'd rather just record for you and try to find my own way. And he never asked me again. But I saw him in 1983 or 84 when I was working with Gil Evans and band in Japan, and we were supposed to do something for was Miles was coming back, and they wanted in Japan they wanted to make a record for with Miles and Gil, and so I was playing the drums in the band. And it was very exciting moments for me. I mean, I didn't give a shit about the money. Forget
No,
the
dude,
money.
that's you got
This is that money had nothing to do with it, and I just needed to get there and play and just do the best I possibly could. And when I saw Miles, I said, "Okay, I'm ready now." He said, "No, it's too late."
dude. Okay, I'm gonna ask
That
you.
was how I mean, and we just laughed about it, and I remember it very well because that was the first and last time that I saw Cicely Tyson as well. We were all in I think Sapporo together or something like that,
Wow. Uh,
and
well, I
it
mean,
was
let me.
every day, man. It was like I mean the whole thing was just there, and then something happened, and it didn't happen. So there we go. Such is life.
Okay, I'm gonna. This is your memory, because it's still. I just went back and listened to it again. It's so legendary. Tell me the two bands that had the cojones to both open and close for Mahavishnu Orchestra. I want to hear this from you because you told me.
Oh, a band of one, which is Taj Mahal.
That's right, with
Yeah,
the dobro storytelling. That's one.
yeah. You all ready? I mean, and we're playing big halls, man.
Big
2,500
halls.
seats, and
That's
and
mine still.
he just flip flop. He come out on the bandstand and sit down and start to do the whole dobro thing, and we were in the audience sitting down bobbing our heads to one cat on the bandstand. It was just Taj, and then the other one was Edgar Winter. And
I
they
just interviewed him and he said, I asked him about it. He said that you guys were just, I guess my point is this. Um, Edgar, like for instance, he was a savant in his own way and just having fun.
yeah.
But like you're telling me that there were times where like someone like Zappa on a concert tour would be like, I'm not closing for these cats. Like in the real moment. Like there
Well,
were
that happened with Cannonball Adderley and I forget the name of this guy who had a big hit record. And we played the Beacon Theater with 1,700 seats, and we were the opening act for two
no, you
shows.
told me this. This is the greatest story of all time.
Mhm.
Everybody was heading for the exits, and they convinced you guys to come back and play another set so that people would actually stay because you blew
Right,
everybody out of the
right.
house.
It was for new audiences. Yeah, that was one of the very few times I ever played in the Beacon Theater. Yeah.
Um, what would you say to cats that are? Did you ever cross paths with John Coltrane?
No. And he died in 1967, and I was in the United States Army
That's amazing. That's right.
band,
Wow.
and so I missed that one. So the closest I could come to him was McCoy Tyner, and that's why you hear me lambasting the drums in this record called "Fly with the Wind," because I couldn't get any closer than that.
Hold on. So can you talk about and so you never saw Train play live? You never saw a live Train?
I never saw him play live. No, no, I never did.
A lot of
Yeah.
people would Pat Martino, the late great Pat, and Steve Grossman both told me, and it's pretty revelatory, but I know it's to be true, is that uh here's one of the most amazing spiritual musicians of all time.
Absolutely.
Coltrane, he would take his teeth out to play. He'd play on his gums,
Well,
and I just,
you see
uh,
what's heavy about him, to me, is that his personality was so strong that the grooves of the recording,
ugh,
I mean, I'm pretty sure I still have about, and I don't have them all by any stretch of the imagination. I think I have a good 20 to 30 recordings of John Coltrane. And the one that I played the most has been Love Supreme.
me too.
Okay.
Yep.
And I can only play that once every 2 or 3 years.
I'm sorry. I play the cassette quite a bit because it's just
No.
so.
I mean, I have
Go
an
ahead.
LP. I have
Yeah,
the
yeah.
original LP,
Uh,
man, and I would play it more, but I get so immersed in it that it's like a love supreme,
mm.
a love supreme, and I feel like Walking Dead, man. It's like he's got you, and popero popero dedo, and I mean, it gets to a point where you can sing. I'm singing his solos. I'm it's like
Exactly. No, and
every
side
note. I mean,
B,
it's
side
just
B is equal.
regurgitating that, and I just go, I gotta get out of here. I'm dying. You know,
I wanted to ask you about. You brought him up earlier. Never had a chance to talk to him. He wasn't an overly verbose person. Gregorico, the great drummer, when he was in Weather Report, would talk about this cat. Spend all day in his room chanting. And one day, Greg walked in his room, and he was like, why do you keep doing this? And this cat said, I'm waiting for the big payday. And and he lived his life, and I think I'm getting to his name, but the point is, in similar fashion to so many of the people that we love, he was able to make a living playing the music that he loved and created, and that's Wayne Shorter.
yeah.
And before I wanted to wrap up this session and just have you talk about his essence. Now, I don't think you guys, outside of the Carnegie Hall, maybe one-offs here and there. I don't think you guys like had real serious musical communion, but he kind of always, and maybe it's because he was alive, but when it comes to, you always hear about Sonny Rollins, Cannonball, Train. I don't want to leave people out, but Wayne was still alive, but somehow he doesn't always get in that conversation because he kind of went to the beat of his own drum. I wanted you to talk about Wayne Shorter.
He he was an artist on different in different of different dimensions, as best for lack of a better term. He's a painter.
Yeah.
He was a philosopher.
Hmm.
He clearly was a savant. He had his own way of looking at life. He could what he did, which is I can't blame other musicians for not being able to do. He didn't play a lot of notes. He just played all the right ones.
You nailed it. That's what
Yeah,
Sco told me about Miles. Miles said you got to play the better notes.
yeah, you got to stop and think about what note fits here in real time now. So if somebody made a mistake, what would go with that what the mistake being
You're
that
right, right.
the note that was played was not in the music as was rehearsed or was everybody had agreed was going to happen. So it was flatted or it was sharp. Okay, what goes with that? Now, in this situation, as we play at any particular tempo, okay, Wayne could do that. Wayne also did something that was very special. You had three options. You either played a note that was really that would enhance that other note that how things were set up
Right.
and raise it to another level, or actually two things, or you didn't play it. You didn't play at all, but yet the intensity level was still left where it was. You still had a sense of of the moment and you share that with your most valued element when you play. You're an artist. You play and you need an audience. That audience, whether you want to believe it or not, is not stupid. If they don't feel comfortable with what you're doing, they're the first ones to walk out. And God help you if you get them back again.
You're
See,
gonna tell me though, like, I mean, I was stunned going back and realizing that Wayne did his first album as a leader in '59. So you're telling
I
me that
didn't know that, man. I did not know that. I
but I
did
mean,
not know.
he was really an elder, and but you never did you when you were at the Hickory House, or did you ever get a chance to outside of the Carnegie Hall with Ron
No,
C? You never played
I
with him.
only I knew about Wayne, but the person who had my attention was actually Dexter Gordon.
That is profound.
So
Explain that. I need to hear that. That is
it's like
so profound, dude.
there was so many players, man.
I know, man.
Dexter was in Europe. I mean, that was also like that was coming. It was like a little bug. He was in Europe. Why was he in Europe? What was happening in Europe? Kluk was in Europe. Why was he in Europe? When all
Right.
these people are over here, you know.
Hmm.
There's some I couldn't imagine how many clubs were on 52nd Street, and these cats were living in Europe. As a young
Wow.
person, I'm trying to get this together, and I'm asking questions, and I'm getting more puzzling answers that are sounding like questions from the pros who were my elders, including Uncle Roy Haynes. So why would you ask something like that, man? I go, okay, good, let's play, okay?
Yeah, let's just play, dude. Dude, you were
Uh,
also, Billy, I want to be very clear. We haven't really touched on any socioeconomic kind of things going on in the world right now, but dude, you said something so profound a few years ago, and I didn't really understand it because I'm just, you know, I mean, I am who I am. But we were
and who
talking
is that, Jake?
a blind monk stumbling into grace is what I am, dude.
Okay.
You know,
All right.
but like you talked about, we were talking about hate crimes, and you were also talking about, you said black on black hate crimes, and this recent thing that went down in Memphis, Tennessee, with this horrible situation with these black policemen killing this uh young black person. It just, there's so much. I just wonder if you can talk. I mean, in the United States right now, uh the vibration is so low and the dissidence is so high, and
Hmm.
it's becoming pretty toxic to the point of, I'm not sure where. I mean, we're headed off the roller coaster here, but in Panama, where are you now? Where are you at right now?
I'm back in Bern, but we're still in Panama. It's just that we're not there at the moment.
Okay, so you're in Bert.
Um,
I mean, can you talk
yeah.
about how you just sort of energetically speaking, how do you feel about putting your foot back in the water, maybe coming out? I mean, you might do the photo shoot at near Eastman, maybe get Kenny Barron and Ron C to play up there. But what about, do you feel energized to play music? Do you feel a sense of, well, how do you feel right now? And just in general, right now in the States, I can say, uh, it just feels like something cataclysmic we're on the verge of that.
I think there's change, but I stay the course.
Yeah.
I played the United States I played 33 shows last year between from September 11th until the end of October. And then I had a week off, and then I was playing in Europe with my band. And that's me. I'm still doing that. If I am blessed enough, and you will know, man.
Well, I miss you,
It
man. I
can
miss you. I,
happen.
mean, I
Now, I'm
miss you
not
a
finished
lot.
yet. You got to listen to me, otherwise you're going to miss this.
Yep, go ahead.
I am supposed to turn 80 years old next year. Okay, that's number one. Number two, there is a strong. It's still not happening yet, but there's a strong chance that I will be working or making a presentation and receiving some kind of thing from my country in either January or February, where the Panama Jazz Festival would be dedicated to me.
Wow.
And so, of course, Ron and Kenny are there.
Apps in a heartbeat, dude.
So I mean, that's no problem. Danilo Perez is putting it together.
Yeah, I remember that Toots Thielsman story, when he canceled and
Oh
they're like,
yeah,
Billy, can you help? You're like, yeah, I know just the cats. But so
yeah.
I mean, that is beautiful. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think I even, and so, but for the remainder of this calendar year, are you going to be staying put in Europe or going back to, where are you going to be at?
We have a concert tour right now. We're up in Lithuania, and,
Wow.
up in the Estonia, and there, and at the end of April, and then we do the month of May in Europe. And then I take a break. That May is done. We fly down to go home to Panama in June. We spend a month in Panama, and then it's back doing festivals. And I could very well end up in the United States doing some festivals in the U.S. in the summer. That's possible. That's
Listen,
possible.
all I'm saying is, man, I miss seeing you, man, and I'm just so happy that you're okay, that you're feeling good, and
Yeah.
it's a very precarious situation. But I'm staying on course. But let's just stay in touch, and when you come back this way, if you're going to play some festivals or something, I'd be great to meet up in person, man.
Absolutely, Jake.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely, man. And I'll tell you who's going to reach out to you. I've got a young man that's starting to work with me as my
Yes.
publicist, and he's a very fine musician. He actually plays drums, and he has a son who's is a wonderful tenor saxophone player. The heavy is that I started because they look so much alike, and he's
Right.
from Pittsburgh, so he knows. I'm giving you all these clues. You should know what I'm talking about, but you'll see.
Stanley Turrentine, or where are we going here?
That's what I'm talking about. This is
Oh
this
my
is
God.
this is two generations
Oh
at
no.
least after me. Okay, when I first saw him play, all I saw of him, I heard the groove, I felt the groove. I was in the club, and I'll give you a big hint. And he was backing up a bass player named Marcus Miller at the time, and he had all this hair on his head, and it was just bobbing up and down. And I couldn't understand, man, this cat is going out of way. But at that time, I don't believe he had a son. And his name is Poochie Bell. You know Poochie?
Uh, that doesn't
No.
come not right away,
Okay.
but yeah.
Go check out Marcus Miller's a lot of Marcus's recordings. It's Poogie. Poogie's playing. He's been playing with Marcus for 30 years.
Yeah, man, feed me, man. I'd love to hang with that
Check him
guy.
out. But
Yeah.
the thing is that he's a PR person, and he's got he's into that whole social media thing. It's just starting, and I had often said, okay, now we're left to our own our
Yes.
own instruments. We
Yes.
have no one in the middle. We have to talk directly. We've always said yes or no. We were always responsible for our actions or the actions of others who were representing us, and now we are representing us. And of all people to come to me and say, "Man, I got this situation," and we started sitting down. He's representing Ron Carter. And so a lot of the stuff that you see on Ron right now is Poogie is helping this work
Wow,
out.
dude, Ron is so dude. Well, that's a whole other ball to wax, but
Yeah. So I mean,
yeah.
all I'm saying is that it's come to that, and
Hmm.
in the middle of all of this, Poogie has a son who plays his buns off on saxophone, and he got out. Just got out. He's going to college for the. I mean, I think he's first year college. Got out of high school. So when you see them both, the one's walking, one's shorter than the other. And Poogie is not exactly. He's not rotund. He slimmed down, but he used to be pretty heavy kid.
Yeah, no, I did.
And
Well, how do you spell his first name? How do you spell Pugi?
yeah, Charles Poogie Bell, Poogie is his nickname.
Wow.
Poogie Bell, great drummer, man.
All right,
Good,
and
good,
I'm gonna,
good groove. You know,
well, no,
groovy
hook
guy.
me. I want to, dude, connect me immediately with that cat. But the only other, there's one cat he's very mercurial, absolute brilliant dude. I need your help if you still talk to him. Is Hubert Laws?
Man, Hubert's with the Los Angeles Symphony. I don't know if he's still. Maybe he may have retired.
I don't know. I just
He
would
does
love.
the Disney thing as well, so I don't know. I mean, well, yeah, he's a A-list woodwinds, but for
Oh,
most of
absolutely.
the
I'd love to interview him. I mean, I've never interviewed him.
absolutely, I
Yeah.
don't know where he is
And
in LA.
I'm gonna send you some brief video clips from this downbeat thing because Billy, it's making my year to see you and Chick smiling at each other and to know that you guys barely ever really gig together, but to know that friendship, the tokens, if you can play,
And you know who else is on there that I haven't seen in years? Jean-Luc Ponty.
dude, he's burning it up and Thad Jones is playing
Right, that is on it.
atmospheric. It's Thad Jones was
Stanley
playing
Clark, Stanley's
Stanley
on
and
it.
Ron, electric and acoustic bass. It's
Yeah.
on Sunny Fortune too. Unreal,
And
man.
Benson is on it. Sonny Fortune's on it. Yeah, it was a whole
Dude,
lot of people. That's
dude, Billy, you're
Channel 11
killing it.
in Chicago, man. Yeah.
Oh my God, it is so beautiful to see you playing like whatever modal. It was acoustic jazz. It was just so beautiful.
Some straight ahead stuff.
It
Yeah.
was straight ahead, and it was so. And I'll send you some of these clips. But yeah, man, let's stay in touch, baby. It's so good to hear your voice, man.
We will do. Thanks for calling. Thanks
Much
for
love,
checking
sir.
in.
Take care, man.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Ciao.
Be cool. Ciao.
You too. Bye.
Bye.